Well, we are done with the first weekend of LCS playoffs, and Team Liquid is moving on after a 3-1 game against C9. Alphari is here. Alphari, there was so much conversation about people just predicting that C9 was going to take this. There was a lot of faith in them, and then you guys just seemed to show up and like kick down the door. So, did you expect the series to go the way that it did, at least in terms of how one sided some of these games looked?
Um, yeah, definitely. So I think that C9 as a team is probably the worst mid-late game team that is like in contention for Worlds right now, or at least in my head, in contention for Worlds. So the only, I guess, or their main strength, I guess you could say, is their early game. And the early game strength is also very predictable because they only have a couple players they can actually play through early game. Not all of their players are capable of winning lane or playing 1v1 or just playing every champion to how the champs should be played. So I think they are quite a predictable team. And I think that they rely a lot on, like I said, playing through mid jungle primarily into side lanes and then snowballing like this. Think that at least in summer they have been very not bad at closing out games, but they take much longer than they should do. And I think they could pressure side lanes more when they're ahead and play for Nash quicker. So I think we had a good week of preparation. We had like a good idea of how to beat them, and we were all feeling confident, as you should, going into playoffs. Best of fives and playoffs is a whole different beast, I suppose, to playing regular season best of ones. And yeah, I mean, we just practiced hard. We had positive energy the whole week of scrims. Ben went through sensitivity training, and just a lot of things came together. And I was pretty confident going in, pretty much.
So one of the things that's interesting to me there is you kind of mentioned that C9's strengths were the early game and like they really struggle mid to late.
Mm-hmm.
One would have thought that they would have had these early game leads in a lot of these games just now, but they didn't, right? It seemed like oftentimes you guys were just dismantling them very early on. So I don't know if that was sort of the plan where you're like, okay, well they're only good early games, so if we could just beat them there and be aggressive and knock down the door before they can get it up, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think they are like mostly only good early game, but we are also better than them early game.
Gotcha.
We just had to figure out how to play against their style because, well, I mean, we didn't have the best draft against them when we played against them the final week of regular split last week, and they basically had like too much proactivity mid jungle, and it was just like maybe our comp could work, but looking at our team and looking at their team, it just didn't make sense to give them all the agency in the early game. So that's something we looked at a little bit more, having more agency against them. Because we are just better mid late, and I believe that we are better laners. So unless they, make crazy plays happen with Blabber and Perkz in the early game, or unless we misplay team fights, or like fuck up our setups, because this has been one of our main problems this split. It's been messing up team fights or messing up our setups or objectives, even when we've been ahead. Then we were
You're gonna be
pretty
okay.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me? I actually asked my Discord for a couple of fun questions, and one of the questions that Free Bougie was asking is about the perma roam Shen and what made you guys decide to bust out the Shen. So in that game.
Yeah, the Shen was something we practiced a little bit, but it was also kind of spontaneous in the draft. So, when we have Ziggs, we are kind of playing away from bot already for the most part. It synergizes well with Sedrani. It's also a flex pick into certain top lane champions. And yeah, pretty much that. Like, it fits what our comp wants to do, which is play away from bot, skirmish early, and it gives us flexibility on 5-pick to choose what we want to do with it. And then we decided to go for like a strong top side rather than put Shen top. And Shen also disables a lot of the early game plays. When they play Renekton and Talia, you need to make dive plays happen top lane, or your champions just don't really work. And you saw them trying, but a lot of the time we would group through mid lane, get mid push, and then stabilize top and deny their plays. And also like Shen ulti is really good against denying early top lane plays as well. So it just made a lot of sense. It wasn't something that we planned 100% going into the draft, but yeah, I think it was a really, really smart pick in this game.
There was a lot of proactivity and aggression from you guys in this, and people were praising you all on streams and on Twitter for just the way you guys played this. And it's funny because there's been a lot of conversation the past week comparing EG, who tends to play all out, with people. I think TL still kind of has this perception they had from last year of being this passive team. So another similar Discord question along those lines was basically just from Shiva asking, did you guys hide this aggressive style? You'd been playing for a while, this slow defensive style in the LCS, and then playoffs run around, and suddenly you guys are psych, we can actually play really aggressive, and then kind of surprise everybody.
Not particularly. I think that actually we've been the most aggressive top side team for basically all of summer since I've been playing. I don't think any of the team has been diving top as consistently or making as many top lane plays happen as we have. I think that we have struggled making early game plays in other areas of the map at times, which we are better at now. And I think that we are also better at playing for objectives, which is why the games feel more natural when we get early game lead top, because we've been diving top for most of the split. There's no surprise that we're going to dive top against teams that play against us. It's just going to happen. It's just there's no avoiding it. So I don't think it was a surprise or that it's been hidden that we like to make plays early game. It's just been our follow-up to these plays and also being more flexible. But I think we've always had this aggression and we've always been pushing for it this split. And like I said, yeah, now that it's in playoffs and now that it's time to focus on what our strengths are and what we think the meta is, it's a lot easier to focus and make it replicable on stage, I suppose.
You had some criticism for C9 at the beginning of this interview, and I wanted to ask you a little bit. I feel like a lot of people have been beating around the bush on this, but there was an expectation when Perkz came over to the LCS that this guy was just going to dominate, and we just haven't really seen that this year, especially this split. So I'm kind of curious. Obviously, you played with him a lot. So do you have any idea why it is that he's playing poorly, or maybe do you even agree that he's playing poorly?
No, I don't think Perkz is playing poorly. I actually think that, like I said, I think the strength of C9 is their mid-jungle. I think that their side laners are capable, but they are never going to build leads themselves, and they are quite predictable in the styles that they play. This series we attacked mid a lot, and we drafted for strong mid-jungle primarily. So I don't know, it's hard to criticize Perkz too much from my point of view for this series. I think we had a very good plan. All of us played very good. And, as long as you control their mid jungle, they're not really going to do anything. So yeah, I think that Perkz is good, but I mean ultimately there's only so much that one individual player can do. And I think that Jensen played very good this series. I think we had a good plan. And I mean, I also think they were good mid laners as well in the LCS, right? There's Jensen, there's Jisuke, there's Power of Evil, Abadage. Mid lane role is not necessarily weak. And of course, Perkz dominated in Europe, and I think he's a very good player. I think his strongest trait probably comes from his leadership skills and having focus on the game, knowing how to prepare for best of fives, etc. But he also played with much better teammates previously on G2, playing with Wonder, playing with Caps, playing with Mickey, Yankos. These guys were the best in Europe for at least top 2 in the positions in Europe for a very long time. So obviously that made it a bit easier for him to look much better in Europe. But I still think he's good. I still think he's one of the primary carries on C9. It's just hard for him to carry versus other good mid laners.
Okay, final question. You guys will be facing TSM 1 week from today. A lot of people are on a TSM hype train. I think people consider them an EG to be the best in the league, or at least they did up until through last week. So, what do you think your chances are against TSM? Another 3-1 series like they against C9?
I expect us, yeah, probably 3-1. Yeah, probably. I mean, we're going to win. I'll be surprised if they take 2 games off us. It's possible. I think that, like C9, they're also quite predictable in how they play, and they also have less early game agency than us. So I think we are going to prepare pretty well for this week playing against them. I think at least I know what they do very well. I think the team will know what they do very well. And while I think that they are definitely like very different to C9, I actually think that C9 would have been harder for us to beat. So yeah, I think it's just going to come down to, we just use this week of practice to prepare, and we know their weaknesses. We know what they do wrong consistently. The whole last split long, they have the same mistakes, have the same trends. And we have better players, so it should be straightforward to beat them. But I will also say that I do think they are... I do think outside of the bracket is stronger. I do think that C9 and TSM are very the strongest teams in NA. So they are also obviously deserving of respect, and anything could happen.
Very good. Anything to say to the fans, Alphari?
Just thank you for supporting us as per usual. And yeah, pretty much that. We're going to win playoffs, so make sure to watch and continue supporting us, because you don't want to support losers.
Very good. Thank you so much, Alphari, for the interview. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things LCS right here on my YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, playoffs are heating up. I hope you enjoyed that piece of content. Insert name of the piece of content you just watched here. Listen, it's time for you to level up as we are leveling up and getting into playoffs, because Alienware has some amazing things, and we've got a new code that works on even more stuff than the previous one did. So go take a look in the description and order something from Alienware. And also be sure to subscribe to the channel, because there's names that are going across below me right now. Those are new subscribers, and it would be swell if you became one of them. Bye.